Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Brunswick City Commission work session for today, Wednesday, November the 6th, 2024. Scheduled time start 5:30 p.m. We will follow agenda as printed. We will have a presentation by Glenda Rodriguez, Public Affairs Specialist for U.S. Small Business Administration regarding disaster loans. And then followed by her presentation, we'll have the area study proposed public safety facility plan by our very own Mr. Carl.
Now? I'm so sorry. So the other thing is explain that the Mud and Near Centers ubicated is in Brandley Recreation Department. It's Brandley County. This center is FEMA and SB available for the people. So this is Monday to Saturday, and so the hour is 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. So any person, first of all, you want to access for the system, FEMA system, I have processed your application, and SBA lending.gov bring opportunity to apply directly. And the other thing is many people don't like or no have internet or access for computer. So go there for the Center Bradley Recreation Department, Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m., 7 p.m. Sunday is closed. This is at the moment. FEMA and SB all the time is changed in many centers and mobile centers around the state. So I'm just in the moment, this is the most near for them. So question, okay. So it's very important, sba.gov/disaster. The other is customer service is 100-659-295, or customer service, disaster customer service at sba.gov. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I did have one question in regards to the renters. Would they have to get permission from the owner of the property? Would you have to have any documentation from the landlord?
The evidence for the rent, yeah, the contract, the leasing. Mm-hmm.
That's the hill. We did put a packet up
Mhm.
on hurricane, tornado. We have to reestablish counties here. We're reestablishing the county, so I will be working in Glenn County going further, and you have my card. I truly appreciate this opportunity.
I have a question.
Thank you.
For there are other programs that's also giving assistance. Do they have any bearing positively, negatively on a person going through this process?
It's basically, it's setting up a footprint. We advise everybody to register with FEMA and apply for SBA. That footprint will be available for all the other agencies, grant monies, those things that are here now.
Mhm.
These things are starting to move from, I guess, the Valdosta area up, but those are the two processes that need to be taking place. Register with FEMA and apply for SBA in order to be the footprint so you can get the other funds that may be available.
I noticed it says no need to wait for insurance to settle before applying. If your insurance provides some funds, do you have, I mean, I know it says up to 100,000, up to 500,000. Are those things back or reduce the amount that you receive from the SBA loan or loan, but disaster loans? They are. So,
Very important, the survivor, usually the people's waiting for the insurance pay, but I need repair correctly, and for example, the food, the floor, and all them. So it's not important waiting for the insurance. The insurance when the insurance pay, prepay to SBA.
Oh.
So it's the first year. The other thing is the first year no payment and no interest accrual. So it's an opportunity of them. So the people this and one receive this money, no have any penalty for paid off of them. So
what's the information you are provided, I mean, listed that's needed?
Mhm.
Are there any other criteria? I mean, like, set amount of income you can make or?
There is a loan portion where credit is available for the low interest rate of 2.813%. And if there is credit available, it may be fluctuated at a higher interest rate. So they do inform your income
Okay,
and what the assets will be.
okay. Thank you.
So you did say that, just piggybacking on Commissioner Atkinson Williams. So if you put in a claim for your insurance and you receive fund your insurance claim, which is going to be pretty much the same claim that you're going to do through this process, is that going to be decreased by the amount you receive from the insurance claim? Or is it simply, well, also it's supplemented by that claim?
It will be supplemented from that. But again, we advise, people, don't wait for insurance. Because the insurance companies are gonna ask you, had you read with FEMA and did you apply for SBA? It's that balance there, so they're gonna hold that. The way the situation is now, they would wait to find out, the insurance companies, a lot of them have been paying, because they know the governmental agencies are here on the ground. So they'll say, okay, once you get your SBA, you can in turn repay the insurance company. It will be deducted from that pot, from that premium. Yeah, so that's what it will be. And if you prove you don't have to keep the money, you have up to 6 months to return it. A lot of times we're getting the decline letters, and that first 2 lines indicate you've been denied. We always advise people read to the bottom of the page. It could, of course, your signature on your tax didn't match your driver's license. Something is going to. So we just don't want people just to read those first 2 lines and give up, because you also have an opportunity to appeal.
Well, I appreciate y'all coming in and sharing this information with us, but majority of citizens. I wanted to check with staff. I love these quick, easy wonders that you have, especially that they're bilingual. I would love to have Mr. Dave Bravo, who heads our community services department, make sure that he's got a stack there, so that way, as people have additional questions, we can make sure we can continue to get this info. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. McDuffie, can we also have it on our city website and social media pages as well?
With no comments and questions, we will now move on to number 2 of our presentations, air study for proposed public safety facility planning. Assistant Chief Carga.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So as we've discussed, we have crumb facilities. We have definitely a need for our public safety infrastructure to be improved and addressed. We've discussed it several times, and thank you all for your support in gaining more information to see how these items can be addressed. We did send out a request for qualifications in order to get us on the right foot. We wanted to make sure we had all the information possible. So we sent out for a request for qualifications for an organization, architectural firm, to do a public spatial needs assessment current facilities, and a plan for our facilities for the future. Growth of our public safety, growth of our city, and the hazards that come with that growth, so that the facilities will be able to address the needs of our public safety. So the request for qualifications out, we received several great responses. Qualified candidates came back on that. ADG which is the representative, is here with me today, Ian Reeves, selected based on their extensive history of experience and expertise, specifically in the field of public safety research, design, and construction. They have a long track record of these facilities, and I'll let him present more on that and introduce his company. Through our study and through our assessment of the company, we feel that their formula that they have for identifying key design needs and their implementation of these solutions will provide us with the highest situational awareness for this project, and planning for future needs of all public in our city. So without into his time, I'll let him introduce himself, his company, and kind of his approach to study.
Good evening. How are you all this evening? My name is Ian Reeves. I'm the president of Architects Design Group. My dad started our firm in '71, and all we've ever done is public safety. So we've got about 400 projects under our belts. We could answer. So this thing, here's there's a lot of special nuances about public safety, a lot of design criteria, codes, mandates, best practices that you have to be of. And this is just a listing of some of them. And this is what we do on every single project. We were really excited about your city's project. We've been tracking the years. We actually did a study for the police department 15 or 20 years ago. Can't recall how long ago it was. But if you could keep going. So what we also is we teach classes to municipal government agencies, police chiefs, fire chiefs, emergency management, communications on how do you realize these projects. And we've had, I think, 1,020 people come through in 23 years. So this is just a sampling of our public safety projects on a national basis. I think we have about 6 states left to cover that we should fill in our map. So we really enjoy it. Every one of these projects is specific to the community. They're not cookie cutter. They're not like schools that you could use this one over and over and over. It's got to be about the community. And these are community assets. And we want to have opportunities for community engagement woven throughout the project, which is really important. Relative to the first phase of this, what is referred to as our pre-design planning, there's a lot of different components to it, and they're in sequential order. And each step informs the next 2 steps. So the first thing we would do is get organizational charts of the departments, understand that, look at current staffing levels, tour the facilities, understand exactly what the challenges the existing facility pose to the departments and their day-to-day operational needs, and then do a room-by-room assess of current need 10 years out and 20 years out, so we can plan for the future. These projects are not inexpensive, so our adage is that they should not have to be modeled until the original debt service has long expired, right? So first phase, we'll go in the detailed spatial needs assessment. That's that room by room data sheets and all this technology caveats that are required, special technology, all the above. Currently, we like to do a staffing study to make sure that each unit within each department properly staffed, and that's based on service calls. So we can see if we're over one and low on others and make sure that the money is being invested appropriately. Third thing we would do is identify any potential grant opportunities that would help fund your project and bring those to you all and work with whoever your grant writer is and say, this is what we think we can get. And we've done a bunch of them. We've gotten quite a few for our clients. Then the building size is identified, and the spatial needs assessment. That'll tell us what kind of size piece of property we need, okay? And then the property, once we have that figured out and we assess, then we go in and do a master plan. And the master plan shows current and future need build out, expansion, training opportunities, all the above. And we multiple options. And then we look at how are we going to go inside building and inside the footprint of the master plan and do operational adjacency of who's going to be next to who for the most efficient delivery service on a daily basis. And that's about the workflow and who needs more community and public engagement. The more stuff and secure stuff, say like for police, would be like evidence, not a lot of public accessibility with that. Then we also are conducting a preliminary technology assessment. One of the few firms that does this during the pre-design phase, but I can tell you the technology package is a very expensive component in the development. So we want to capture what costs could be upfront. So when we give you multiple development options in the final work, and we walk you through each one, it has turnkey development costs. So you know what the financial commitments are for each of the different options. And basically they were how far out forward to build under phase 1. And then what we also like to do is host community workshops to let the citizens and taxpayers ask questions. And we want to do that early on before it's a final product, because if you show them a final product, it's not really asking for input, right? That doesn't work so good. And then we would just do a conceptual building design package. And we often like to, with the direction of the administration, come and provide one-on-one briefings for the elected officials prior to the public presentation. So you all can be informed about the entire process, how that was conducted, the results of that, and it's the right to do it. And I think it's very effective. And then so we issue this detailed questionnaire to each of the supervisory level units of each of the departments, and they complete it, and then we come and we sit down and go through it with them and room by room detail. and we talk about it, and we show them examples of how other departments have done it successfully in the nation. And, give them different ways to look at things outside just what they know from what they've got. Because your buildings are in need repair. I'll put it that way. Yeah. And then then the first column on the left is, all the spaces per unit, and the current need 10 years out, 20 years out. So you can see which units are going to need to strategically grow. And the smart way of doing that, in our opinion, is to locate pockets of shelf space in between the units that are going to grow. And that could be storage, emergency supplies. It could be a lot of things. And honestly, sometimes the actual need over that 20-year span evolves into something else. The way both your departments deliver services today will be very different in 10 years. And so the building, as the department, has to be able to evolve. So we want it flexible. We don't want to compartmentalize everybody in an office. Better, more open space is better. And then it's a tenant improvement versus doing a 15,000 square foot addition. You have to advertise for a builder, and it's complete workforce mobilization from foundation up to, this is just a TI, a build out. And that's a much more cost effective, and you get it for 50 cents on the dollar. The staffing study, we base on the service from 911 and who's responding, how many times do they respond, which unit, are there follow-up calls, all the above. So that helps identify, and we correlate the staffing projections with the spatial projections in the spatial needs assessment. Everything marries up. Okay. And then when we look at the site, this is our site selection matrix. There's 10 weighted criterion specific to public safety, and they vary depending on the community. So we do is we very objectively, as a committee, will score each of the site independent from one another, utilizing the same criteria. And then we scored out 99% and the right site comes straight to the top. It's very effective, and it takes the subjectivity out of it. So, and then we go into the site analysis, looking at if there's any wet jurisdictional areas, lowlands, stormwater management areas, access, utilities, aerial and subsurface, all the above. Do we have fiber to the site? Very important, things like that, because those all equate to dollars. And so when we were grading them, we have to take all of those considerations into account. And then looking at this as a set of a master plan where we've got public parking, secured staff parking, future expansion capabilities. And then we go inside the building and we show how the buildings are going to expand. You could go and you see like the next image, please. Then you can see how this is the Chatham County multi-agency public safety plex out at the airport. So we're adding a 20,000 square building, and now they've already got people that are parking to get in because it's going to be a Cat 5 hurricane hardened structure. So we just went out to bid on this. And if we keep on, then if we're going to look at phasing, so when we look at our master plan, we like to look at these projects as if they're a 50-year plan. That doesn't mean we're going to build everything right away, but we want to identify what our future needs will be, especially for the drill field, training props, and then identifying where those should be located so they're not conflicting. You can use all the props concurrently, and one area is not shut down. And when you get into the field, vehicle and pedestrian circulation is a very critical thing. You don't want to be in the way of what's going on. And then once we go inside the footprint, this is what we refer to as our operational adjacency diagrams. So every one of those little floor plates is directly proportionate to the gross square foot allocation per that unit. And we work through this with the departments to make sure that we've got everybody next to who needs to be next to. So it's a very efficient workflow delivery system. And then we think it's very important for the community workshops, the renderings, and taking these to give a visual to what the buildings could look like, how they're going to fit right into the context of the community. That, some of them are modern, some of them are not, this, that, and the other. So it depends on who we're working for and what the direction of the community wants to be. So, and then these went for sharing at the workshops. And then most importantly, because when they say it's not about the money, it's always about the money, right? Okay, my father taught me that years ago. Looking at multiple development options and then breaking those down in great detail as to what those are going to cost. Okay, and this was option A, B, C, D, and then if we go to the next one, we narrowed it down to the top two and identify exactly what the pros and cons would be and how far out is this going to afford us to go. No, I think the next slide is about, oh, there were, okay, so fire and police are very different in that the way they train and the way they operate is like fire is more of a family functional thing where they rely on each other. So have officers are out and about by themselves a lot. And it's a very dangerous, stressful environment. And each of these areas, and this is one of my things that I lecture about at the conferences, is they have very specialized areas and they all have technology and all kinds of accreditation requirements that so you all can stay certified. And we know how to cover these in great detail. And, you know, with the firefighters' cancer rates and exposure to carcinogens, the way we design our fire stations now is completely different than it was 7 years ago. They're more than twice likely to get certain cancers than any other industry in the nation, which is scary. Likewise, these are all NFPA 101, 1001, excuse me, has multiple guidelines that we have to follow. And we've got specialists, we've got about 25 specialists in the firm that know every one of these by heart just about. So, and likewise, fire and police have the same as well. Property and evidence, records, detention areas, you know, forensics, all the different areas that are very loaded with requirements to make sure that they're done properly. Special ventilation systems. But in our program, when we do joint utilities, and that is the national trend, because you save a great deal of money, you've got one to develop, you've got one critical infrastructure, central utility plant pack for the generators, fuel tanks, fuel pumps, air conditioning equipment, all that protected in a steel cage from air breed during hurricane season, things of that nature. And doing that on 2 different sites is twice as much in general. But what we do in the programming is to seek out opportunities for shared space between the departments. It builds a synergy and it decreases the gross square footage amount. But yet, so if the fire department needs a 2,000 square foot training room and the police need a 2,000, why don't we do one at 3, save 1,000 square feet, that's 20% less. Taxpayers are saving a bunch of money and they've got a bigger room to share. Just put wall partitions in. So the national average for shared space for public buildings is like 8 to 9%. We hit 18 to 22% on every project. So for $1 million you're spending, you're saving $1 million by doing this and finding these opportunities. And that's working with the chiefs and, you know, their willingness. And from what I understand, we got a great opportunity. I was very honored that the International Police Chiefs Association asked us to provide 2 of our members, myself and one of my vice presidents, to every 20 years, they update the design guidelines for law enforcement facilities. It's the only firm in the nation that actually had 2. Several had 1, which was very honorable. Anyway, these are just another bunch of them. You're fine. So national trends, lessons learned, you know, the biggest thing in public safety right now is training, training, and training. I mean, that's just like real estate, you know, location, 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 but training is the biggest thing. And we go to 15 conferences a year, lecture about 11 of them. And this is what we're talking about. This is what we're hearing about all the time. So finding opportunities within there and training spaces have to be seclusive. We like to have a community room right off of the lobby. That's also a training space. That could also be a citywide EOC if need be. Have it have a catering prep room there. Have it open out onto a green field. So we could have exterior events, national night out or you know, whatever it is the community has. And we've done a lot of projects where out in the training field on last Friday of the month, the chief has a giant inflatable screen and we do movies on the lawn for the citizens and they love it. It's very well attended, especially the one out in Texas. But also we've got a lot of things that we're doing because of the pandemic and how we design our systems and the things we have to pay special attention to. This is overall project schedule, but I want to focus on that first one, which is the pre-design planning phase. That's a 4 to 6 month period to get that done. But that will frame your entire project. That's like the foundation of a house. If the foundation's not right, nothing thereafter shall be. So we want to make sure that we get it right. We think it through. We're looking at future. We're involving the community and making sure that it's an affordable, achievable project for the city. And that's the whole purpose of these pre-design phase. And 4 to 6 months is what it will take. And the last thing is that, one more, please. Yeah. That the grants. Next slide. And these are some of the grants that we've had from a bunch of different programs, but mostly through FEMA. And we've got 2 or 3 right that we're looking at that would be probably good for you all, which is the BRIC grant and the I don't know if I have any ARPA funds, but the BRIC grant has over like $1.7 billion in it right now. And it's for things just like this, building resiliency and infrastructure for our communities. So we've got one pending $55.5 million grant, Oakland County, Michigan right now. So we're happy to help. We'll help identify those. We'll help you structure the application. We know what the allowable expenses are that FEMA will cover, and they cover 75% of the mitigation components cost. You know, so if we had a code minimum building and we're doing a Cat 4, Cat 5, difference in the costs in the systems, they'll look at and they'll approve for 75% with a 25% matching share from the local community. So we could get a couple few $1 million to be real money, right? So we take great pride in that. So, and that's it. I don't, sure you have questions.
Questions or comments?
I'm just curious. I know you don't have the layout, but it says our 2 facilities, the one on Gloucester also in this design. I'm just looking at the space to change it up really good.
We're looking at options. That's really the purpose of the study. Cost them. Every option.
I would think that's the most challenging one.
Definitely the most challenging.
Yeah, it doesn't meet code.
There's a lot of not many. Confident.
One thing we have to keep in mind is that these facilities are referred to by the building code as facilities, and they're much more restrictive in terms of what we have to do in engineering, mitigation of wind forces, floods, and all that.
Thank you.
I would assume during this study, we're not talking about eliminating all of our stations and all that. We're talking about one large facility that would house our executive staff and leadership team, training opportunities and all that. We'd probably still keep stations operational and all that.
Ideally, this community probably could have 3 locations for
Mhm.
stations
Right.
to respond for the law enforcement is out and about for patrol, so
Right.
they don't actually dispatch from the station very frequently.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Sir.
So what, Assistant Chief, what's the next step?
So at this point, the next step, the cost for this was already approved in the budget for this year, so we're good to go. What we'll do is it's identified ADG as our contractor of choice. Through the queue process, we'll get a contract to present to you all at the next commission meeting. Go from there.
Questions or comments from the commission?
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. With that, that will close out our work session meeting. And we will move quickly into the regular meeting and the full agenda as we are 7 minutes behind on that meeting. So with that, I will call to order the Brunswick City Commission regularly scheduled meeting for Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. If we could all please stand for our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Can we please bow? Father God, thank you for the time that we have to come together as a community. We know times can often cause strain to that community, but we ask that you get in between the fissures between our community to ensure that we stay together. As the city of Brunswick, to stay tight on the focus of the things that strengthen all Brunswickians, and please bless those who sit upon this dais. They can do the good work for all of those who call Brunswick. In your son Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. I pledge of allegiance to
Thanks.
Want to take a quick point of privilege. As you all know, we say the Pledge of Allegiance, but we don't have so many amazing young voices backing us up. So I want to recognize Dr. Butler and the group of third to fifth graders who are a member of the Golden Owls, Jack and Jill of America. I want to bring this up because this group was started on January 24th, 1988 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where 20 mothers came together to discuss dating and to provide social, cultural, and educational opportunities for youth. Matching that same spirit and matching that same in October 2022, 24 mothers plus four, like that we got four extras. 24 mothers chartered the Golden Owls chapter of Jack and Jill, where the organization's mission is to develop future African American leaders through volunteer service, civic duty, philanthropic giving, and leadership development. The organization continues to be committed to investing in programs and services that create a strong foundation for children to thrive long term. Dr. Butler, I will call you to the front just to introduce who's with you. I see you giving me that look. I'm gonna call you anyway.
So proud.
I'd love to call you to the front, introduce who's with you, but also for a pause and take a picture. I think if anything, the day after the election we just had, it is all the more important to ensure every single person across our great city, inside a great state, but also that calls the United States of America home, knows that they have a place and a purpose in this great democracy that we all live in, the United States of America. I want to thank you and the other mothers that are a part of this, not only because I see you here, but also because I've seen you up in Atlanta bothering legislators, and we are positive that when you all visit Atlanta in session, you got some talking points for the city of what to ask for as we continue to our city forward. So we thank you for your leadership and thank you for their involvement.
Good evening. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. This is Gold House, Jack and Jill. Our grade group is grades 3 to 5, and we are known as the Center. So we have Madison Butler, Jordan Whittill, Harmony Roke, I want to say his name, LJ Bent, and then we have the moms, Miss Jamie, Dr. Bryant, and Miss Brett. So we have about, in our age group, we have 6 young people. So we're just excited to be here and thank you for this opportunity.
Well, we want to say to our mothers, we're gonna call y'all to the front because we're gonna take a picture real quick. But to our mothers, we thank you for your leadership and care. To the young people, we know you don't got a lot of people with you right now, but what you're learning and what you are doing is of the utmost importance, not only to us city, but to us as Brunswickians, and for everything that you do to stretch out across this nation. We know you are the leaders of the fair, and we thank you for being here tonight, okay? We're going to continue. We're going to bother you. Come on up to the front. We're going to get that. No, y'all come on down.
Oh, come on down. All right.
Thank you so much. Sir. Thank you so much, Jack and Jill. I'd love to say we're gonna make the meeting quick for you, but I don't know how quick we're gonna make it, but we're gonna try. Now hang out with us as long as you can. Uh, with that, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda, the addendums or subtractions.
Mr. Mayor, I have a addendum I make.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to defer item number 7 and item number 9 on our agenda. till our meeting.
November 20th.
Yes, sir. We have the motion to defer agenda item number 7 and number 9 until the November 20th commission meeting. We'll take that as a motion. Commissioner Savy, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. The items are deferred. We will now move forward to anyone who has a motion to approve the amended agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. The agenda is adopted. We will now move on to number 4, presentation to Ms. Sapp, manager of Marcius of Glen Library, recognizing the month of November as National Family Literacy Month. If you please come to the front. How you all doing?
Good to see you.
We appreciate you being with us. First off, thank you for everything that you all do. I've taken plenty of meetings at the library. I've had plenty of calls at the library, but I also know the great work that you all do to teach English as a second language, to teach French as a new language. I tried to get in that class, it was too many. But to also be really a community partner, ensuring that every child, every adult, and every person in our community has access to all of the books to grow their minds, to grow their spirits, and to grow their ideals. So we thank you for all of the work you all do. Whereas parents and their children's early and most continuous teachers they play a critical role in their children's school success from birth through career and college readiness. And whereas these benefit from engaging in shared learning activities at home and in the community. And whereas literacy is a lifelong process that explores histories and beyond to create general understandings of similarities and differences. When families explore subjects together, bonds are strengthened. Literacy is not restricted to just reading and writing, but includes speaking, listening. And whereas organizations like the Marcius of Glen Library as a community hub offering an inclusive environment with programs such as 1,000 books before kindergarten, exhibits, book clubs, and various that enhance literacy journeys for all. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, I, Cosby H. Johnson, Mayor of the City of Brunswick, along with my fellow commissioners, hereby proclaim the month of November as National Family Literacy Month in the City of Brunswick, and urge all residents to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Give you a chance to speak, but before I say that, they threw cognizance in here to test my literacy, and I appreciate that. Usually I read very fast. I had to slow down when I got to that word. So thank you for your work. No, go ahead, please. We thank you. All right, we're going to bother you one more time, a couple more times actually, for a picture. So thank you guys. Give them a hand. Clap.
You want us to stand behind, Mayor?
Thank you so much. With that, we'll move to number 5, proclamation presentation to Tharp, Executive Director of Memory Matters Glenn, recognizing the November as National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. You could please come to the front for us. We obviously want to thank you for your work. We understand that this is a disease that continues to maturate, but the research around it and the investment around it, development around the sciences around it continue to work. And we want to thank you for ensuring that we keep it at top of mind, not only for the science advancements, but also for the advancements in personal care that many people work on. So we want to thank you for all that you do. With that, whereas Alzheimer's disease, degenerative brain disease, which is the most common form of dementia. Dementia is a general term that describes symptoms associated with memory and cognitive ability loss impacting daily life. And whereas 6 million people in the United States are living with Alzheimer's and other dementias, while being the leading cause of death in seniors, impacting families mentally and financially, with treatment exceeding 345 billion in 2020, a figure that continues to rise. And whereas 15.9 million carers are contributing over 18.1 billion hours of unpaid care, with many of these being unpaid family members who are continuing to care for their own families and working full-time jobs. And whereas organizations like Memory Matters Glenn offer support to individuals and families and educating the community and enriching lives of Brunswickians suffering with Alzheimer's and other dementias. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Cosby H. Johnson, Mayor of the City of Brunswick, along with my fellow commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of November as National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month in the City of Brunswick, and encourage all residents to stay informed, support research, and advocate for individuals suffering with Alzheimer's. Thank you so much.
I do want to thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Crosby, the board. Didn't know I was going to be speaking, so I'm tongue-tied, but we do really appreciate it. Memory Matters has been since 1994, so we are celebrating our 30th year here in the city of Brunswick. Here in the city, we are obviously a nonprofit organization funded solely by local donations and grants. We're so thrilled to be in such a incredibly giving community. And because of that, all of the services that we provide to families dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, all of our services are free. So we have all kinds of information on our website. We encourage everyone to go by and look at our website. Join us if you're struggling. If you're a caregiver and you're struggling, we'd love to have you come by and let us see what we can do for you. We have counseling sessions, we have support groups, activities, all different kinds of things that we can do for you. We just really appreciate the support.
Julie, can you just mention your website address and where you're located at? I've had a chance to visit your facility, but maybe everybody else might want to.
Absolutely. We are over by the hospital.
We're on the corner of Sherwood and Cherokee, and our website is memorymattersben.com. So
Now we will move on to number 6, proclamation presentation to, I'm gonna mess up this name, Allison Christensen. There we go. Allison Christensen, ex-director of Hope 1312 Collective, recognizing the month of November National Adoption Awareness Month. Allison,
It's just Allie.
it's just Allie. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, we've met a couple times, never seen your whole name written out.
Yeah, it's just.
And
it's
so
Allie. I feel much
when I
better
read
about
it, I was like, no, actually know each other, and I'm gonna mess this name up.
You're fine.
I want to say thank you. I think many of us up here have interacted with you, know the work that you do, but also understand the impact of the work you do for not only children, but families throughout our area. For those who came up before you, I think we are blessed to have truly members of our community that are giving of themselves, giving of us in ways that don't often get a thank you. So we are highlighting this month and highlighting the way you all do. We also want to take the time to say thank you because we know that we're taxing upon yourselves and taxing upon your families, but you find a way to get it done for the children of our community. So with that, I want to pause, give you a hand clap. Thank you. Whereas children in foster care programs deserve permanent and nurturing families, as of 2022, roughly 10,000 children across Georgia remain in foster care. And whereas fostering a child is a temporary remedy to the permanency goal of adoption to ensure children have consistent and loving environments where they thrive. And whereas many children in the foster care system have emotional, mental, physical disabilities and traumas requiring extra patience and support to help them overcome their hardships. And whereas organizations like Hope 1312 Collective offer programming that takes a community-based approach to training, educating, and assisting adopted children, foster families, volunteers, and organizations seeking to make a difference for children seeking permanent homes and stability. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Cosby H. Johnson, Mayor of the City of Brunswick, along with my fellow commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2024 National Adoption Month in the City of Brunswick and encourage all Brunswickians to observe this month by helping children in need of a permanent home to secure a more promising future with a forever family so they make adulthood with the love and support we all deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much of you. I do know, and you know that we stay in the trenches just doing the thing. Means a lot to have a voice from those of you in leadership. I truly believe that this thing is this battle in child welfare that we're seeing here is done top down and bottom up. And so your voice tonight is just the beginning, I hope, of a partnership with the city to rewrite child welfare here. Art at Hope 1312 Collective is that families on both sides of adoption would feel heard and valued. Adoption is not the end. It is not the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen. Very, very hard. And we want there to be healing on both sides for the sake of families and permanency, meaning a loving and healthy home, healthy and healed. And so we offer our services in those hopes and we believe in it happen. And so we just want that effort to be multiplied. I do want to acknowledge the faithful foster and adoptive families that serve in our county like Sarah Meyer, founder of our organization, but who has faithfully served an adoptive foster family here in our community. These are the heroes that are doing all the time, and we need so many more. So just would appreciate you that. We want to bring our children back home. So many are placed outside of our county, and they need to be back here to reunify with family or have a chance to be adopted in community, because this is their home. So I know we can do that work together, and I appreciate tonight. There's much healing to be had in the city of Brunswick, as you all, and so I'm just thankful to have this partnership with you all.
Really quick, I know a conversation
Yes.
about ensuring that Brunswick is a community we're facing
Yes.
when it comes to trauma,
Mhm.
children, ensuring that we're the first. I know you told me we like to be the first.
Right. We
Well,
could be number 3.
We could
Yes.
three. Top 5 is still good. That gets us
Still-
in the college
still-
football playoffs. So we want to ensure that we get that done swiftly before the end of the year to ensure foster families, but also those across Georgia know that we are a community through ensuring that we pour into families who need that help. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for your adoption. Thank you for your fostering, and thank you for the work that you do already as well. Thank you to all of our community partners in that work in our great city. So with that, we will move on. Number 8, as number 7 was deferred, we will move down to items to we'll consider approval of October 16th, 2024 regular scheduled meeting. City manager, no, I'm sorry, City Clerk Atkinson, any changes or subtractions? Hearing none, anything from hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, there being no changes required minutes as presented for October the 16th, 2024 regular scheduled meeting, I make a motion to approve those as submitted.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the meetings from October 2024 are adopted. We will now move on to number 10 as number deferred to the 20th meeting. Consider approval of College Park Drainage Amendment, Sarah McDuffie and Director Alberson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you know, we have been working diligently College Park Drainage Project, and we meet regularly in regards to moving that project forward. We have a grant that ends in March of 2026, so we are diligently trying to get the project moving ahead. As we reevaluate the project, I'm presenting some changes in mostly not the scope, but the method and process that we are following the project done. It was a 4-phase project. We started prior to 2022, but we went into agreement with the county for grant funding for the project and received $10.6 million of grant funding. At the time, the estimated project cost was $12 million, and that was to cover all phases. As we've moved from 2022, as you know, a lot of the cost of everything that we've worked has escalated for various reasons. It's time, materials, it's labor cost, and other things such as that. At this time, the project cost for the College Park escalated to $27 million for the total, and that's meant for the total 4 phases. We are looking at proceeding right computer. You have this up? Andrea, can you put it on? Okay, so my computer went out. Anyway, so I know you can't see that, but the project itself is right now, the first two phases is going to cost $10.6 million, and that's 10.4 million for phase one, 3.6 million for phase two. And then we have some added costs for fees and design for phases 3 and 4 to be in that funding for a total of $14.6 million. As I stated before, the total funding for the project was about $12 million, including the 10.6 million grant fund, and then a mill that the county had put in, and 700,000 that the city had committed. This time, we're running a deficit of $2.3 million to get phase one completed. So we are going, asking to go into a joint again with the county to fund that deficit. The city's portion of it, $173,000, and the county's portion is 1.5 million, based on a 67% county, 33% city split. And if you have any questions about, right now, we're in the land acquisitions for phase two. We're in the construction bid phase for phase one, and Garo can provide some additional detail regarding the status. if you'd like.
Questions or comments from the commission?
So phase one, construction. Phase two, acquisition.
It's actually in the, we're acquiring easements and permanent easements for phase two. And then we'll be going out for phase two. We're not going to wait until phase one is completed or anything. We're moving forward to try and get it done by that March 2026 deadline.
Okay, the phase one construction portion start and projected dates.
Phase one construction will probably start in the spring. The county expects to award that contract in November here meeting. We've gotten a bid, successful bid. Did get only one bid, so they're having to go through the sole source approval with DC. They're in the process now. They expect that approval at any time. And as soon as they do, they will contract to the contractor. And then within a cut, he'll be issued a notice to proceed. So most likely you should see construction begin January on phase one.
Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, just a general question. Can you tell me what or city manager, I'm sorry, what's the split again?
So it's based on a formula that was based on the water flow of, it's 67% county, 3% city. For this particular, for phase one and phase two.
That
Okay.
ratio is based on when we just started the phase one design of the canal, it was determined that 67% of the flow through that canal came from properties in Glenn County.
Got it. Thank you.
33% came from the city.
That's all right. I just needed a breakdown of that number. That's all I need.
This is going, we are asking for the funding to be approved, the $703,000, and for a agreement with the county for this funding cost share.
I just have two questions. I'm assuming that the county's what cost sharing, this sharing number and what have you, good, so.
Yes.
The agreement we're asking for, I worked with Aaron to draft. What we're asking for tonight is that the agreement be approved at this level. It will tomorrow night at the county. And that percentage was locked in, and there's not a cost sharing agreement because the grant documents, the contractual grant documents with the county sort of set forth that cost sharing. And now that we're putting a cost sharing agreement in place to address the extra cost.
Gotcha. Have we had an opportunity, I know this is, constantly, but have we identified any other potential revenue sources that can be this project other than what we currently have, like SPOS dollars and what have you?
this point, it's the grants and SPOS dollars that we're using. Phase 3 and 4, they're also applying for another grant. And the city may be a portion of that, but a lot of that project is county project.
I got you. I would just say that we just, obviously this is a huge chunk out of our budget. I think use of our funds, I think we're moving forward. I would love to be able to see forward and maybe this is for our new, finance director, but, I'd love to see as we collect additional SPOS, that those overages that we're collecting for SPOS apply to the 700,000. Does that make sense?
Well, actually, I mean, of $12 million for storm drainage. And we had projected a lot more cost for College Park because we weren't basing it on the grant funding. We have to spend the SPOS money before we can allocate extra.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Any additional question? I want to take a moment. Thank you to Commissioner Gwen Atkinson, Commissioner Roll, Mayor Pro Tem Harris, all of those in touch with Pastor Mutchinson to continue to make project moves along the way. I know that we've gotten to a point where we need to allocate additional dollars to get it done, but I also want to reiterate that all of the work in the residential part of this in phase 1 and phase 2.
Yes.
And so I want to say out loud again, we are ensuring with the dollars that we put forward today that we are taking residential part of these phases and ensuring that that gets in a timely manner and ensure that that gets done in a way that we complete it, from land acquisition, which our staff has been a part of, but also ensuring that we have the funds put forward mission to make sure we complete this project. So I want to thank everyone for their work. And I'll put it up for motion.
I move that the College Park drainage amendment presented by, City Manager McDuffie and, Director Albertson.
Here in a second.
Second.
Here in a first and a second. All those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you all. Number 11, we'll move on to consider approval of financial reports as of September 30th, 2024. Director Perry.
Meetings.
Excuse me.
Okay. All right. Honorable Mayor and Commission, this is our financial report as of September 30th, 2024. General fund for September 30th from revenue shows monthly we've received 969,679. Year to date showing a 4 million collected in revenues, which total our for the year to date is $4,628,015. Cash on hand as of 9/24 is $7,274,923. Prime South Bank account holding at about 936,198, and our Georgia Fund 1 account holding at about 6,338,720. Now, for our sales tax for the month of September, we collected about 784,540, which is year to date, we're holding at about 2,639,960. This over September of 2023, we collected over about 624, giving us just over 1% more than last year. And that concludes the sales tax report. Next page. Now, for capital projects on SPLOST 6, which is page, I do know that there's a line item 13 that will be updated as it relates to the recognition. but there were no changes, at least as of the month of September. And total cash for September 30th is 182,724 cents. Now, capital projects for SPLOST 20, we had up to about, the city expended as of 9/30, 3,750,968. Total for the budget over was 25,509,032. Total hand would be $7,238,007.31. SPLOS distributions received for the month was $10,649,528. The interest earned for that month was $280,945. The total received since the inception of that SPLOS project is $10,900,473. As we move over to the next page. Now for our Norwich Street Commons Fund, they really collected interest for that month. So for the month of that, for inception of that project, it would have been 550,000, since we only collected only about 1,558 in interest just for the month of September. Cash balance on hand would be 373,093. Now for the Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center, currently cash on hand 43,292. We only collected about 55,000 in grants, 55,741, and our expenditures fiscal year to date is like 30,130. Now for our ARPA fund, we have total funds received as of 9,876,292. The cash of 9/30 is $5,509,100. Now, total funds received as of 9/30/2024, final balance of $9,876,292. If you're looking at allocations spent, you see all the allocations that was been received for September. If there's any questions, just let me know. For our sanitation fund for year 2024, our billing was at 133,000. The franchise fees is 27,411. Between penalties, our total revenue for that month was 167,909. Now, total expenses year to date is running about 370,630, giving the operating loss at about 202,729. We do have total available cash on hand of 310,431. Let's see, waste disposal or waste trash pickup. We run every month about 143,384 for the month of September. Year to date about 429,977. And total year to date is $486,056. Stormwater fund. Our stormwater fees we collected was $31,412. A DNR grant is $933. Interest earned for that month is $900. Total inflows of revenue for that month is $41,737. For expenditures operating, we had $265,333. Miss of $12,292. Total outflows was $277,600. Cash balance shows a negative 4543, which was what we did not collect for the month. That will change over for the next month of October when you see the next one. Now, for our Lawrence Center, for the month of September, we collected current month's transactions. We collected about $14,800.91. Year-to-date transactions running about $54,655. For a total budgeted of $138,239.40, and that's our expense totals for the month. Any questions for you have for me?
Questions or comments?
What's the DNR grant for the storm?
Ma'am?
The DNR grant under stormwater?
Mm-hmm.
What was?
I believe the DNR grant for the stormwaters, I think is applied for that we had received. I can't give you the specifics on it. I'll probably be when we get back to the office this week, but I do know. Okay, I'm sorry.
What revenue is coming back into some DNR grant or
Yeah, what-
expenses or?
What was it for? What did we, what
It
did
was
we
a
get?
coast, it was, that was probably the 319, the EPD 319 have, so we budgeted that out of stormwater and then that comes back on
Okay.
a monthly basis. We get that reimbursement back from EPD.
Okay, awesome. And the GMA lease payment? What piece of it?
That, I believe, is on an excavator, a mini excavator.
Okay.
Additional questions or comments?
Looking at, 22. And we look at our total receipts since inception. And looking at on hand, there's a difference of 58,000, a little over 58,000 and $2.31. Could you explain that difference?
I probably won't be able to give you a full explanation, but I'll definitely be able to give you a call sometime this week to give you a correct answer as far as what she knows too. I would assume, I'm not gonna make any assumptions, but I'm thinking it's just what we were that month. And maybe an entry that needs to be posted for the current month, for the following month. I'll definitely give you an update on that, when I get back to the office.
Well, I want to make sure this count gets reconciled as well.
Sure.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Hearing none, we will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the financial report as of September 30th, 2020, as presented.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same.
I oppose.
Motion passes 4-1. Now move on to resolution number 2024-11, carbon reduction program. Madam City Manager McDuffie.
Thank you again. And the only reason I'm presenting this is because we just grant like Thursday of last week. We were notified the BATS committee that the money was available to entities in our area. It's approximately $532,000 is, let me make sure. Okay, 452 for the grant. The total project is 565,000. And was working to fill out the grant information, so I put together the item for this. This is a carbon reduction program, and we're for the grant. It's due on Friday, and we are asking for approval of the grant application for us to apply for the grant and also for the local funding. We do have money in our SPLOST for trails and projects for the match. This is for carbon reduction, and we will apply it to the design of the MLK corridor that we've been on to cover all of the design costs for the project.
Questions or comments?
I have a couple, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind. So I'm proud to represent the city on the committee. And this revenue stream was presented to us by Federal Department of Transportation at our last meeting. This funding was actually going to expire. It was, close to 600 that was just sitting there that was allocated. So I'm proud of our staff for jumping on with this super tight deadline. And I think we worked really hard to apply it to a project that I think is going to benefit both the county significantly, and I think it'll move that whole project forward quite a bit. So I appreciate everybody's hard work.
Comments or questions from the commission? What's the local match?
113,000.
That's for the city or split between city and county?
Say that again.
Is that just for the city or split with the county?
That's the city, and this is, the application is actually so the city. And we are going to complete all of our design for our project with this funding.
So it's 113,000 out of SPLOST.
Yes,
SPLOST is our current SPLOST or old SPLOST?
the 2022.
Okay. Earth, any questions or comments from anyone else? If not, motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve carbon reduction resolution 2024-11.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to number 13, SPLOST 6 reconciliation. There isn't a name, so I'm gonna give it city manager. And for the good of, we have executive session, so just like everybody.
So this information I'm presenting, and I spoke with the mayor. Okay. I can't, but anyway, the information is on this 6, and oh, it's not even on. Okay, so the information that I have for SPLOST 6 is kind of a reconciliation, and what I did was go back at the total SPLOST information that was available to close out most of those projects as of September of last year. Our financial presentations, we had only been presenting information on the one left open. So I went back to look at the total listing cost information. And even though I can't see that very well, the variation was done between what was presented in the general ledger, and I did information out. The general ledger shows that we have $20 billion of revenue, which includes about 16.7 million of actual collection SPLOST. And it also includes $328,000 of funding from the city, which we transferred back. It includes $374,000 of interest and also about $6,000 of other revenue plus $4.2 million of rents. That's what makes up the 20.8 million that's on the ledger revenue for the SPLOST 20. For the SPLOST. The expenditures is at $20,059,000 for a difference of about $149,000. The reason this question came up was because the difference between what's said was left in that fund, which was $153,000, was different from the cash, which is, as reported, $180,000. But what the reconciliation shows is that we $150,000 of spending left out of that $1,800,000 of collections and revenue for that. And it goes through every project and shows that $2.3 million of additional revenue was collected for that fund. And that 2.3 million included an of collections of about 1.9 million plus the interest, other revenue from the fuel tax and a reimbursement from the that was added to that fund. So of that, we had about $2.4 million of extra money. Did do budget adjustments of about 2.372, 2,372,000 of budget adjustments to close out those funds and to add funding to those accounts collections. And that was done prior to September of last year. Well, at September, we closed out the rest of accounts, which was another $650,000 that we used to close out some of the accounts. And I can't read them, so let me see if I can document. No, I sent it. So basically, there was about an answer, another one of Commissioner Williams' questions, because I asked what was the money that had been collected through interest and the overage of collections had been used for, was actually used to make those budget adjustments. As you know, in the SPOS accounts, you can't spend the money and for the SPOS project. So what we did was some reallocate of that funding to ensure that we were spending the money for the projects that have been allocated. So on the page, if you go to the next page, I did a reconciliation of the general ledger for the revenues, and you can see the collection reimbursements, the interest earned, other income, and the transfer fund. And then the general ledger balance of expenditures included what was spent for the project. And then the $228,000 of funds that were for the general fund. And again, the additional money that was collected and the interest used for budget adjustments. If you'll show the next page. The next page, I went through all of the general ledger dates, September of last year. And the reason I did September is because that was basically when it was closed out. Well, most of the accounts were closed out. There is still a difference in that balance. And through it, the revenues, what I did was look at what the expenditures were month end, the revenues reported at month end, and then what that difference was. And as of December, that balance was working closely. After then, the balance started to change. And what I told Commissioner Williams, and will tell you all, that that has to be journal entries that were made in the cash account. And I did not go through all those journal entries. I will have either, I don't know if finance will be able to do that. We'll need an auditor to do that. But basically, we're right now $150,000 of money left to spend, but it shows $182,000 cash. So we're a little bit over about $1,000, but we'll reconcile that.
I know we are going through for our audit for fiscal year 24, but when, I mean, I know that's a lot, and we are going through the process, or actually they're giving us 2 more additional months for its extension due to weather. When do you expect this reconciliation to be completed of really both SPOS accounts, or especially SPOS 6, since it's really this?
Let me ask, I'll need to confer with, I'm gonna ask the former financier who, you know, has been still helping some. So I'll ask her if she can look at it, because she may have more knowledge, because I can tell when it starts, and she may be able to look specifically at those months. So it may not take as I think, but let me ask her, and I'll send you back a kind of a date of the reconciliation. And we'll also look at SPOS 22.
All right, thank you.
Comments or questions from the commission? Math up here, so I'm gonna say calculator.
What is that?
I said Mayor Pro Calculator out, so
Well, you know,
rush.
I have fun with numbers, and all of this, and it was a good exercise to go through. But again, the cash, when they start, I mean, when we have money in Georgia Fund 1 and we in Prime South. And basically to get money from a lot of transfers, and you have to do journal entries for those transfers. Time we take money out of Georgia Fund 1, we put it in the general fund, and then we put it in the SPLOST. So basically, those are all journal entries of cash. And has to be reviewed in order to kind of pinpoint where that went.
So you were saying the 182, 724.34 account by itself?
It's in a Prime South account. It's in the Georgia Fund 1, and part of it's in Prime South.
So basically, ledger report, I mean, this is a pull from those two bank accounts. Those funds come in for SPLOST 6 has its own, where those funds go. It's mixed in it, or you took, I mean,
Okay, so when we get money in, such as the SPLOST 22, we get in monthly SPLOST amount. It
Okay.
goes into Prime South, in the SPLOST account. Based on what we have to expend, we may take 700,000 of it and put into the Georgia Fund 1
okay.
account. And that, it sits in there until we need the money back to pay something out.
Okay.
And you sit it in there because of the highest interest rate or that's, we need to explain that
Yeah.
we are moving it
Georgia, we are trying to
yielding
gain
account
interest on those
to a
dollars.
higher yielding account
Right.
until we have to use them.
Comes in and you place it into our regular bank account, and then depends on the number of expenditure to have. We'll just use this. $10,000 came in, okay? But we only need $5,000. You put the other 5 in Georgia Fund 1. So somewhere tracking in the two accounts of the transfer gotten lost. But it could not have, or technically that cash amount accounting for in your journal entry is technically less and it belongs to another. If you send your remainder, it's 153,000. Is it possible?
Well, it's possible.
Realize
It's
it's not an
possible.
individual account as money is going.
Right,
all
it's
in.
possible because transfers between the general fund and the SPLOST funds in the Georgia Fund 1. It's possible. Okay, let me, I guess, kind of give it to you this way. Say we had the $10,000 come into the SPLOST. Spent I put 5,000 into Georgia Fund 1. Came up and we needed to spend $5,000 of SPLOST. We transferred it from the general fund to the Prime South SPLOST account. It from the Georgia Fund 1 back to the general fund. And yeah, those,
Basically, we have two, it hits two accounts before you have your journal entry ledgers. Because one is from the money is in Georgia Prime 1, Georgia
Fund
1, okay? The $5,000. But before you could transfer Georgia Fund 1 to cover the loss expense, you take it out of the Prime 1, the regular general fund.
times that happens, yes.
Okay, so we too scared. All the entries are wrong. Okay.
Yeah. So the funds are going into the primary account, which the primary account is at Prime South.
Yeah, we have those 17 accounts at Prime
Okay.
South.
Prime South, you got a primary account where the collection of those funds are going to initially hit. That's your initial
Right.
journal entry. So I'm not to journal entries, but the transferring and the tracking of the monies. So it's going from Prime South to Georgia Fund 1, according to what's needed. What's not needed is what's actually being transferred to your. Okay, so that's going to sit there. If there is a portion of that that's needed for an expense that comes up, only that portion is transferred from Georgia Fund 1 back to the primary account expense from, because you're not expensing from the Georgia Fund 1 account. Okay.
Right. But sometimes it's like if you have a of $37,329, you're transfer $38,000.
But no, I'm
But
saying,
that goes back to the fund out of Georgia Fund One.
so
But
you
it
got-
goes through the general.
Three accounts.
You've got three. No, let's, from what I'm hearing, two accounts. We're just making multiple transactions from that primary account.
Okay, the general fund, just about every account, because right now you got general fund being transferred to stormwater to pay for stormwater. You got general being paid through group health for group health. So there's a lot of actions that go through, but for SPOS, we cannot, based on HUP, we cannot transfer SPOS dollars directly from South to the Georgia Fund One. I have to transfer them through the general fund, Georgia Fund One. And when they come back, I have to transfer back through the general to the SPOS.
So you got the SPOS account initially where the money's that's. collected
Right,
go
where the
into.
receipts go.
Okay.
Yes.
So you got the SPOS account, then you've got an in-between account,
The general
the
fund,
general.
yeah,
Then you've got the land account,
the Georgia Fund One.
Georgia for one. So we got three accounts that's mixed up in the SPOS.
Yes.
Yeah, so we passing through.
And,
So then
and
when we got to come back again, we have to take it from Georgia Fund One.
through to the SPOS. And that's done for most funds that are transferred.
Why do those three steps?
Because in the
The-
general, the Georgia fund, it can transfer directly to some of the accounts, but funds, it cannot transfer to directly. And maybe it's,
So is it-
we can, you know,
Is it fair to
correct.
say municipalities or counties have to use some kind of pass-through account to get their SPOS dollar into high interest yielding accounts?
In most cases, but it able to be fixed, but I'll have to check. You know, I'm kind of in here system and those type of transactions, I have not able to evaluate enough to see how we can maybe be more direct.
I think it was when we were trying to make sure that we were maxing the intake of those monies. It's a matter that you've got to make sure that the percentage when you're dealing with those SPOS monies, that what's available to fund whatever project you're working on has to be available. You can only transfer so much of those monies out getting into.
Well, you can't commingle the fund basically, but that's why we have a specific account for the SPOS. So it's not, you know, the state will give us a finding if they feel like we use SPOS dollars to cover anything else other than SPOS. So that's why most of the time we cover everything with general fund and, you know, transfer back.
And you're paying,
But those aren't transactions that are kind of commingling the funds. It's basically just providing funds to be.
you're trying to keep that detail between and the tracking of not commingling of those funds per the.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And we haven't had any, I think when I first got, there was a bank charge for $100 that was paid by the general fund for the SPOS account. And we actually transferred dollars from SPOS back to general fund, and the state questioned why we did that. But we had to explain to them it was a bank charge on the account for the SPOS, which again, that's one of the things you can't do. You can't use SPOS dollar for anything other than showing it's for SPOS project. And that's why, I mean, the Georgia Fund One account is different because we do through the general fund for the SPOS. And that does require entries to be done through those three accounts. Which is, again, we'll find out if that 30,000 belong in some other account or whether it should be in the SPOS account.
Just quick questions, if you don't mind. Number one, does it make sense in this situation as we're, again, having new staff and reading? Is it possible to have a second Georgia Fund One account that's lost?
Well, the total one, everything's in that one fund. But what may need to happen is SPOS needs to have a direct transfer from the Georgia fund.
okay.
It doesn't right now.
Because my other question is, as we're accounting interest accrued by the SPOS dollars, it sounds like right now that we're getting the interest on the account that we have in Georgia.
And we do an
which-
interest allocation every
Okay.
month
Okay,
for
so-
the Georgia Fund
All
One.
right, perfect. And then the last question I have is, how often are we, doing those transactions back? Are we on like a 30 or 60-day rotation so do we collect invoice days and then we know, okay, we've got this stack of invoices at the end of the month, we've got to pay them all, how much we pull out of Georgia Fund One to get those
It's,
checks?
it's
or-
probably twice a month, maybe 2 or 3. We have to do it for payroll because normally with the funds in there and then payroll's about $500,000. So we do transact for payroll.
But we don't use SPOS for payroll.
Oh, no, not SPOS.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
Talking
talking
about like, okay, if we know
For
we've
SPOS?
like we've got the invoices for SPOS, we have to pull that.
Yeah, that's probably about twice a month.
Okay.
Yeah, for that particular account.
I'm just thinking I was just curious if we had some consistency to make it easy in terms of the tracking, and the less we have to do that, obviously, the less journal
Yeah.
entries and moving. I appreciate you bringing to this. I mean, I think we all are learning as we getting better, so.
Yeah, I
appreciate
learned a lot about it myself.
For questions?
No, I just want to say, appreciate you, taking the time out to ensure that we are in a orderly state. And I look for other reconciliations.
And, I appreciate the question coming as we do a lot of work and we have a lot going on. Sometimes these things and I'm not saying it's a little thing, it is a very important thing, but the things we don't necessarily look into that much, which we should. And again, I guess intention was to reconcile the SPOS 6 once, but we do have 2 accounts that I'm going to try and close 2 of them. We have 4 right now. So the storm drainage and the Highway 7 infrastructure, trying to close those 2 out. Leave open the Liberty Ship account and the wayfinding because we will have some signage to do. And we just determined that we have some dock work and some other work that will at Liberty Ship and may need some design money or some match for a grant. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions? Hearing none, we will turn for executive session for the purposes of,
Real estate.
we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we adjourn our regular scheduled meeting to executive session for matters of real estate.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing all adjourn for executive session. I was just saying we back. We got a couple more running in. Gives way for one more. Who run? There she go. I didn't even mention she's a Jack and Jill mom. Shout out to Aiden. Wore that shirt, wore that pen. Let me tell you, I hope I mention because they ain't cheap. They ain't cheap to be no Jack and. I wasn't in jail. I was in the Boys and Girls Club. I know. We'll open it for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize you, sir, Mr. Mayor, to execute a purchase and for certain property on Lanier Boulevard, subject to the addition of a C that should the grant funds be unavailable, the city will not be obligated to purchase the property.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. None. The motion passes. With that, we'll open it for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and second, all those in favor show by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, none. We are adjourned.